everybody, to our energy talk here on Wednesday, Skype Live. My name is Jona Bryndis. I'm an energy healer, energy coach, and energy therapist. And I want to thank you for tuning in. And today we're going to talk about these, rather intense and big things that are happening in our world right now that create quite a bit uncertainty in us, and that may make it difficult for us to sleep, or may make it difficult for us to keep a clear mind or a clear heart. So it is October the 4th, and that is something that some people here have pointed out as an important date. I too have pointed out the 4th of October and some other dates in my energy forecast as significant. So let's work our way through this and begin with some questions, that people who are energetically sensitive experience within themselves, maybe without being able to say it out loud, because there's probably not that many people that we can talk to about these energetic sensations that we have. And this is why we do this energy talk here once a week, to bring these things up. What are some of these uncertainties, these things that confuse you, these things that maybe put you on guard or keep you on your toes or make it difficult for you to sleep? What are these things that are coming up for you right now that you would like to maybe share on and gain some insight as to what is actually going on? Who of you feels this kind of feeling that is reported by so many people, my clients, from all over the world? There's something is about to happen, and I don't know what it is, so my mind is kind of trying to figure out what to do, and it's kind of like an endless loop. So there's not really much to work with other than maybe what comes in from the outside, what comes in from other people. Who feels this way? Who feels that there's so much going on right now that it's almost impossible to make sense of it? All right, here, you want to talk? You want to have energy talk with me? With us? Don't have to. Anybody who would like to put this into words, what this feels like for you?
Hi, Jona.
Hi.
I've got a lot of things happening, and for me, and I would say thanks to the community which I am here, and thanks to you, this year, especially now, I am closing a lot of things.
Okay.
And some of the things are closed without my my how do I say that? So basically, they are closed because they are closed. They needed to go, and it doesn't mean that I am happy that they are going, but
Mm-hmm.
it just happens that way. And some of the things I am closing myself
Okay.
because I feel the need, and I know that it's something new going to come, and I am happy about that, but I do have a fear. It's just like, oh my God, if it's not going to work, what I am going to do if I
Yeah.
am closing everything. So that's basically how I feel right now.
And these things, I mean, you said that there are some things coming to a close that just sort of unfolded this way, and some of those you have actively initiated.
Yes.
Excuse me. How do you feel about this? I mean, you just expressed your thoughts about the future, like what if this doesn't work, or what am I going to do in the future? But how do you actually feel about things becoming a little more maybe sorted in your life? Is this all stuff that if you just ask your heart, okay, that it feels that it's pushing you, or directing you into you know a direction that is more authentic, or that makes you feel more true with yourself or your environment. Do you feel
So,
congruent? Yeah, this is a
uh,
word that we use. Congruent means like
yeah.
we feel we have no conflicts about it. We may have conflicts about what comes after it, but that's a different
Mhm.
kind of conflict.
I would say the one which I am closing, I am feeling congruent because that's the
Okay.
time when I need to do some action because they were kind of floating. I should have
Mm-hmm.
done that closing many years ago, but I was still like, it's more about my work, professional work, my
Mm-hmm.
job, job. And I think I went to the point, and even like yesterday, one of my clients asked me, like, what about if you can just keep a little bit like a 3 months more, the don't terminate the contract the date which you want. I said, I'm sorry, I can't. It's just like it will be too much of the stretch. So I felt really congruent because that's how I really
Okay.
feel. And when I
Okay.
set up the date, that
Mm-hmm.
was it. But the things which are kind of closing by itself, I
Yeah.
am like, why is it happening? Oh my God. So the first, it's more of the surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I go deeper, I feel that they were not really working well for me because
Yeah.
I was giving too much. And I knew deep in the heart that I need to change something, but because there was not my active participation in changing, I got scared. I got like
Okay.
all the
So this is
questions.
this is
Yeah.
cool. I love how you express this, Anita. So you basically say, so there's a lot of things that are resolving in your life. Some of those you chose consciously, actively, and some other things are kind of resolving on the tail end of this.
Hmm.
But because you didn't chose them, because you didn't, make it happen, it just sort of started to happen as a result of you beginning to close out things. You don't feel in control, and that,
Yes.
like not feeling in control scares you. So,
Hmm.
well, you're tapping right into one of those mechanics of manifestation here when you let something go. And we just had a sort of pre-discussion here to the energy talk with those people live here. When you let something go and you kind of know it's the right time, yeah, and you feel okay about it, there still is sort of a residue of, going through the motions, and then the fear of what comes after. It's the fear of the unknown. Okay, but as we are, and this is so important, as we are, facing that, yeah, anybody who has been procrastinating something, yeah, that you could feel in your heart you had to let that go, but you sort of let it run for a little longer, or didn't want to make the step that you knew you were going to have to take one day. Everyone who then does that initiates basically sort of a new attractor field, a new kind of of manifestation. It's not a timeline, but a new manifestation field. In other words, what happens as a result of us becoming willing, and mustering the courage to actually do something that we have been sort of dragging along, that creates a higher vibratory manifestation field that then also allows the other things to be expelled. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you start one thing and you do this consciously. And I always tell you guys that, concerted action and choices are higher in vibratory rate than the ones that just sort of, karmically occur. And that is because the ones where you step in and basically claim, your conscious choice, that's freedom, yeah, freedom, love, and truth. Yeah, so it aligns you to freedom. And in that moment, yeah, other aspects that are not aligned to freedom, they become more visible for you. You see them more, you couldn't see them before. The same happens when you tune yourself into truth. Yeah, when you make a stance for something that is true for you, when you address something with somebody that you have maybe sort of swept under the rug or didn't want to go into the confrontation. The moment you do that, other things will become illuminated. And the same with love. As soon as we decide, to no longer say do half-ass, relationships, or, stop doing jobs or things, or live in places that we don't love. As soon as you choose love in one of your, sort of important areas in your life, all the things, or not all of them, but the next thing that is not resonating on that level will be illuminated. So in other words, every time we make a conscious choice, our vibratory rate begins to vibrate faster. And this may just be temporary. So many of you have experienced this with big choices that you've made, and then you kind of lost track of it again. So there is a temporary component to that if we cannot or don't know how to hold this. But as your vibratory rate begins to speed up, okay, your perception is also changing along with this. This is something really, really important to understand. Yeah, in our group here with the Course of Miracles, that is also free for everybody, by the way, so it's not too late to join. Just come on in. We are on day 10, I think. Yeah, going through all the lessons of the Course in Miracles, and it's revolving. So when we are done with 365, we're going to start with lesson 1 again. So you're not missing out on anything. It's in the nature of how the Course is written, that becomes possible. Anyway, so as the important concept to grasp, and the thing that I'm really the concept that I'm really trying to drive home with all of you, is that your perception is relative to your energetic state. So when you are in a state of fear, for example, fear of losing something, fear of just the unknown, fear of the truth that you might see, or the fear of realizing an uncomfortable reality, like an uncomfortable feeling. If you stay in that state of fear, over time you will lose the ability to even see what it is that you are rejecting, that you are conflicted with. And the moment you take on this task, the moment you take on, the best way for me to give you an example here is when you start cleaning your house. So there's the superficial cleaning that we do maybe every day, and then there comes this day where you feel like this is it. I need to clean deeper, and all of the sudden, as you've decided that and started to clean things, and you pull the stove forward to clean behind it, or the fridge and whatnot, clean the rugs and look underneath, okay, and all of a sudden you will realize how much more dirt there was. Does this make sense? So as you are making a conscious choice, one that in this case, Aneta, has to do with overcoming a certain fear. What was the fear? You said it had to do with your professional life. So I'm suspecting that you are in the process of letting go a part of your business or income stream. Okay, so what was the fear? The fear was that, you couldn't make living, or, you would have significantly less income if you let that go. And so you were trying to, keep it alive for as long as you could, which isn't a bad strategy. When it comes to physical or financial security, that's often, a good strategy if you build something, in the meantime that, is more authentic, where there's more love in it, where there is more truth in it. And I'm suspecting that you have already done this, but the point is a different one. The point is that when you finally muster the courage to let something go, yeah, even though you were struggling with it, you are raising your energetic state. You are raising your vibratory rate. And as you're doing this, your perception will be illuminated. You will then begin to see other things that are no longer on that very same level of, the courage and the willingness to face the unknown. Does this make sense? It's almost like a chain reaction. And someone who can hold this, who's trained in holding their energy, yeah, can use this like a jump board, yeah, and use these big decisions, and well, not big, but like conscious decisions to trampoline themselves up with every choice into a higher vibratory state. And these higher vibratory states that we are all aiming at, right? With wanting to be happy, with wanting to have inner peace, with wanting healing and manifestation of abundance and so forth. They need to be practiced.
It makes sense, because it's truly coming like the chain reaction, and it's something what started actually with my mother sickness, and I realized that I need more flexibility in my life.
Okay.
I need to be
It showed you
more
something
with her. And then when I was visiting her, one of the jobs just disappeared. Actually, I terminated later on because it was not the same. So it started actually in June. And then out of the sudden, all my other, contracts are kind of going to the end. And I am like, oh God, what's going on? But so I want my flexibility, and that's my intention. That's what I set up in my mind. And I think that's what might be happening. Opening the energy for that.
One of the contemplations that I've recommended for October is to watch whether our choices are based on fear or love. Yeah, because that's on a very fundamental level, the difference between a high and a low vibratory choice. Okay, yeah, something that leads to expansion, that leads to growth is high vibratory, and something that leads to contraction, that leads to more conflict and perhaps even more loss, yeah? Less love, less truth, less freedom. Okay, if I ask you now, you said what triggered it was your mom's disease or your mom's health challenge, and you realizing that you want to be there, that you want to be more flexible, that you want to be able to support someone like your mom. That insight, what do you think that's based on? Is that based on fear or is that based on love?
It's based on love.
It is.
Mm-hmm. And it's a kind of a conscious choice because I could say, okay, fine, she's older and we all one day are going to transfer to a different dimension. If I didn't love her, I would say, okay, I'm going to do whatever, if the time comes, I will go there. But I don't want that way. I just want to be as long with her as I can. So whatever is happening now, I think that the universe is showing me that if that's what I want, I need to change my way of thinking. I need to change what I am doing so far, because whatever I'm doing, it's a very static, in the meaning that I need to be and teach yoga at the specific, place, or I need to do the other kind of business, but it's I need to be in front of the computer, so I cannot really travel. And whenever I am away, I am not making any money. And if I'm going to go away,
so it showed you something.
Yeah.
It showed you something.
It did.
If you want to do something with more love, yeah, or create your life in love, yeah, more love, more freedom, and more truth, you have to make some changes. And
yes.
of course, and this is the part here that you guys got to listen to very carefully. When this occurs, and I can tell you out of my own experience that every single time you raise your vibration, you increase your consciousness level, you get scared of the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in a way, it is a leveling up, but just so different from how we think it is, right? We think, oh, now all my problems are resolved. No, now, that very same intention or goal that you have needs to be cleared out, needs to be integrated, needs to be connected with on this higher vibratory level. And that's often much harder, right? Remember those days when we were completely unconscious, right? Where we didn't think about anything and we just did things out of naivete, right? That was nice, right? It was easy. But it's also, when we're here, it's also, why we are exploring and really diving deeper into understanding ourselves and the world and life itself better. Because if we go the easy way, that's what I often call karma, right? So karma is the fail-safe here for our physical incarnations. There's a certain amount of minimum lessons or minimum insights that we will gain from this physical experience, even if we choose to stay unconscious. It will just happen through repetition. Okay. But those of us who came here and uncovered these repetitive patterns, these karmic patterns, realize that, well, it doesn't have to be that way. We can also out-vibrate, these karmic things by consciously changing things, by stepping into the freedom of choice and say, you know what, I don't need another round. I don't need another repetition of this. All right. I want something that allows me to grow in a more conscious way. And that is basically, what we gain through spirituality. Yeah. It's the inward perspective that allows us to see, these things that we have basically externalized our powers to in the past. And if we want to be, more active and more conscious in our physical life's experience, then we kind of have to come to terms with the fact that it is an act of bravery. It's an act of courage every single time. Every single time you grow, you have to make a step out of your comfort zone. Growth only happens outside of the comfort zone. And that's the problem. There always is the factor of the unknown. As soon as we step out of the comfort zone, we don't know what comes next. And guess what? That is the lesson. That in and of itself is the lesson. Overcoming the fear of the unknown.
Yeah,
and being
it's
aware
true.
of being aware of what your choices are based on. Yeah. Because for as long as your choices are based on fear, you're just repeating. Okay. So the fear that you then have is kind of justified because you're just in for the next round. I don't know if that makes sense.
I would say that I've been self-employed for 20 years. So it's not that I don't have fear, but because everything is kind of closing, and I don't have courage, but because everything is closing, it's kind of of unknown. And at this point, I am even ready to say, if I need to go and work for someone for a moment, I'm ready to do it, because I don't want to have everything as it was before. And also, I am very lucky in the situation where I am, because I talked to my husband and he said, honey, I am still working, and I would be working for the next 4 years. So you've got 4 years to figure it out. What do you want to do? And I'm okay. That's good.
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's what I mean. I know that you have a lot of courage, Annetta. You are, an energy healer that is trained here, and transCODES. You do the soul self initiation with me. Okay, I know you have a lot of courage, but
It's still scary.
but what I'm trying to tell you is there's always another level.
Yeah, I
Okay,
know.
so
Uh-huh.
this is now the unknown, and really all it takes. And I know that it's not easy, but really all it takes is to become more aware of what your choice is based on and where it's going to lead you. The fact that it's like the difficulty level is now getting higher, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm-hmm.
more you align yourself to truth, the more you align yourself to freedom and to love, well, the more anything that is not true, anything that is not free, anything that is not love will come to your awareness and
Yeah,
will have to be dealt with.
and I would say I would have not been able to do it without you, Jona, and this community, because it's really opening my eyes and my soul, and
Mm.
I am looking and finding something different than what I seen before or I thought before. It's just kind of going deeper, and thank you so much, for helping me to open myself up.
So, all I can say to you is go for it, stay conscious, okay? And everything that you will have to face has to do with basically integrating, establishing this level of truth with yourself now. Yeah. And yes, there will always be things that come to our attention once we make these step forward that show us, what still needs to be worked on. And that's all right. Because at the end of the day, it's not, like suffering or struggling. It is the not facing it. It is the not being able to muster the courage that produces the suffering and the struggle, guys. Yeah. So anyone here who knows what it feels like when you procrastinate something, when you know you got to do something, or you got to stop doing something, it could be both of them, and you're not doing it. Yes, it's the core of all inner conflict, okay? Not wanting to face something. All the way to, cognitive dissonances, that basically then pave the way for manipulation from the outside, mind control. Yeah, so when a human is in a high state of cognitive dissonance, it's very, very easy, okay, to manipulate that person, to control that person. Okay? So the more you step into this soul self authority of yours, which, yes, granted, it is scary at first because, yeah, you take on responsibility. You begin to own your own journey. But guess what? It also bestows you with all the powers that come with becoming your own self conscious, individuated soul self. So at the end of the day, it's all self selection. Nobody's forcing you to become an individuated soul self. Nobody is forcing you to, you know, live in truth or live in love or live in freedom. Nobody's forcing you to do that. However, if it's what you want and you have become aware that you need more love, more truth, and more freedom in your life, then you setting this whole sort of what I call spiritual initiation machine into motion. And as that, begins to work through you, all right, you're gonna have, and it sometimes does feel like tests or, like you're being tested. Yeah, anybody know what I mean? When I say tested, it's not like a person or anything. It's like the universe is kind of trying to test your resolve, right? You sure you really want to do this? Aneta, just 3 more months, just one more, right? That's one of those things that come in as in form of temptations or what ifs and all that. So you got to understand that these testings or these, these sort of gatekeepers, those are gatekeepers, okay? They make sure that you do not enter the next realm or the next level without consciousness. Because if you cannot hold that, all right, you will, basically just make one step forward, 2 steps back, because you're going to be so scared about what comes next that, you're going to back off. And that's much more painful than, compared to being completely unaware. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? The more you align yourself to truth, love, and freedom, the harder it gets to, lie to yourself, lie to others. The harder it gets to, be unfree. And the harder it gets to engage with things that are fundamentally not love, that are based on selfishness or greed or, some kind of materialistic, like sort of non-spiritual goals. So there is a responsibility that comes with us stepping into this. But, these cycles of fear and pain, yeah, they are still there. They just play out in different ways. Now, basically what I'm saying is, and that those of you who work with me know this, is keep going. Keep going, because it will get easier with every choice that you make in your life, consciously, knowing that you are choosing your freedom, knowing that you are choosing truth, that you are choosing love. Now, some level of love, not necessarily romantic love. I'm talking about the resonance of love here, which is also expressed in self-love and healing and abundance. With every choice where you muster this courage to step in and stand with it, you are upping the game. You are upping the game. And a lot of stuff that, is annoying to you or that keeps on creeping in, even on the etheric level, even on, the spiritual level, in regards to the kinds of energies that you feel subjected to, will fall away because you become stronger. It's all about healing your consciousness soul, healing that part in you that has somehow lost identity here in the course of, this physical experience. So that's how this works, guys. And it is a lengthy process. Yes, it can take several lifetimes. But I can assure you that those of you here, those of you who are watching this right now, who are here live, okay, that you must have already worked on this for several lifetimes. Because you would not be ready to listen or hear the message that I am sending you, that I'm transmitting with these energy talks, with these energy alignments that I put out on SoundCloud and all the workshops that I do. So there is a part of you that is already familiar with these fundamental esoteric concepts. Yeah, but I'm also very critical and very earthly in this way, because as a scientist, I recognize, that we cannot just, let the pendulum swing into the other extreme, out of the materialism into the naive, blind faith, okay? That is not part of becoming a conscious soul self. It was at a certain time in our Earth's and our society's history, but today, the level of consciousness that we have requires us to face these things, requires us to face our fears in regard to technology, in regard to the Earth's future, in regard to, the future of us as a species. We cannot progress in this world if we do not develop the understanding along with our spiritual side. We need conscious choices from here on in order to evolve. Yeah, just holding hands and singing Kumbaya without understanding why is not going to do it for us. We can have trust and we can have love and all this in our heart. But the level of mind control, the level of manipulation, and the intensity, of dark forces working through us by messing with our minds is unprecedented. In other words, we are being asked to master our conscious thinking. This is the task. This is what will lead for the entire planet and the entire human race, and with it, its consciousness development, to awaken, to rise in consciousness level. It is up to each and every one of us, and it's a self-selection process, and that is what makes it so hard. And the only thing the universe does, or like say, the forces of light, is to provide us with these situations and conditions that clearly show this to us. We've had many of these situations just in the last 5 years, guys, that clearly show to us what happens if we don't make conscious choices, if we don't step into our freedom of choice, if we allow ourselves to be controlled by the outside. What happens if we don't step into truth, if we don't investigate this, if we don't train ourselves to discern truth? And what happens when we forget that the stuff we are made out of is actually love, not romantic love, the resonance of love and everything along with this planet, our Earth. And that if we subscribe to a loveless world and outlook of life, that is either based on greed or some kind of, transhumanist machine-like definition of what it means to be human, which is our current legal definition, of being alive, and our scientific definition of being alive through, the presence of electrical impulses, guys, that makes us machines. If we cannot see that and break through that, all right, then we cannot hold, this increase in vibratory rate that is coming in for all of us right now. In other words, in positive terms, okay, it is up to each and every one of us, not just to heal our own conflicts and our own fear and our own pain, but by seeing and realizing that by doing so and stepping into conscious choice, stepping into truth, stepping into love, and making our choices based on that, on all levels of life, that we are actually contributing to not just the whole collective rising in consciousness level, but also the planet. There's a workshop that I will do here within the Sacred Self-Healing community, which is basically the paid membership for transCODES, where I will discuss once more, the elements and aspects that play into, the future of our planet. And, some of these topics such as earth changes, climate change, etc. And you will hear me say the same thing again. We will have to develop the courage to transmute our fear into something that is based on truth and love and conscious choice. And this, is basically how I recommend you guys to deal with some of these concerning things that are coming in right now, be it, those emergency alert systems that are being tested, some of these fears around the political situation, some of your fears around, obviously the climate change and so forth. You're gonna have to look deeply into this and not just buy into these pre-chewed and spoon-fed, assumptions and dogmas, all right, that elicit an automatic response in you. An automatic response, guys, is not one that you chose. An automatic thought is not one you were thinking. An automatic activism, just based on emotions, is not a representation of your conscious will. That's not how this goes. Yeah. So right now, and for the entire month of October and worse, November, you are being confronted with a situation here, with conditions in your life and in the world that clearly show what it is that needs to be overcome, that needs to be outvibrated, where we need to make more conscious choices. Is it scary? Yes. Is it something we should be afraid of? No. Why? Because you can choose if you let your perspective and your perception and your choices and your thoughts and your emotions being dominated by some fear mongering, some fear projection that is coming in from the outside. Or if you regard all this as an opportunity for you, to step into more truth, more freedom, and more love in your personal life. That is what is happening. So what we just discussed here with one of you as a personal story is actually happening in the bigger scope of things as well, in the collective sense. So we need to understand that every time, we level up just a little bit, okay? A new ability to see truth, to feel truth, to, to recognize what is not true comes in. And that isn't comfortable. Our ego does not like it because it forces it out of its comfort zone. And whether you're going to recognize that being forced out of your comfort zone as an opportunity or as a struggle, that is up to you. That's the self-selective trait. That is necessary for you to become a conscious soul self. You cannot be a conscious soul self with being willing to step out of the mainstream spoon-fed opinion making and autonomous nervous system response, because that is all designed to make you react in a certain way. So let's just stay on course here. Let's keep going. Let's train our consciousness. Let's, take this as an opportunity to tune in. Yeah, it's an inside job to tune in what comes forward from, our inner guidance, our true self, our higher self. And many of you who have been training this for a long time with me or with others also to tune into the cosmic aspect of that. Yeah. To see the connection with, these, Aneta, you called it the universe. Yeah. I called it cosmic intelligence only because, this is the scientific part in me that tries to stay as neutral as possible. So cosmic intelligence is actually more neutral than universe, because it really just points at, the higher intelligence that, kind of created, the source of all that is unfolding. More about this here as we go through October, step by step. All right. I strongly recommend to join the Course in Miracles work group that we have is wonderful. And I strongly recommend you to join the Sacred Self-Healing community, because here we go deep, deep into these kind of topics, but without investigating it, without without not investigating it, without, just taking on all these prefabricated beliefs, where we train how to make a conscious choice as an individualized, conscious soul self. All right. I love you guys. I'm wishing you a week with not too much fear. Next week, we're probably going to talk about the eclipse, the solar eclipse that is on the horizon, okay, and what these eclipse times allow us to see. Stay conscious.
Thank you, Jona.